Hello, this is Heather of Shutterbug 101. Today we'll be doing just a lens comparison of the Sony 24-70 G Master lens and the Tamron 28-75 2.8. Let's get started. So today I was going to do a walkthrough of a Sony A7S II, which is a little bit old because they're supposed to be coming out with the 3. If you have a Sony, you know exactly the weight I'm talking about. And the new Sony A9 II, but I unfortunately wasn't able to get my hands on either of them. So today we're just going to be doing a lens comparison, kind of a review, if you will. If you've been thinking about one of these lenses, but you're not sure exactly which one you should jump for, we're going to go ahead and start with the Sony. So the Sony I actually personally own. It's my favorite lens. I did own it before the Tamron version came out, to be fair. So once it did come out, I knew that I had to play with it and kind of see exactly what differences I found in them. See if the purchase I made was really worth it. So the Sony 24-70 G Master, the GM on this lens, this is going to mean that it is the best of the Sony lenses. It's going to be the first to get upgrades when it comes to firmware. It's going to be future compatible with all Sony cameras. There should never be a firmware issue when it comes to you know, upgrading your camera and using this lens toward future cameras. So that's kind of the nice thing about a G Master, is you don't have to worry about it phasing itself out or there being problems if you upgrade your gear later on, which is kind of the big reason that, you know, is kind of like, that's kind of the tipper for me. Because for me, I really enjoy Sony cameras. That's kind of the camera that I personally enjoy using on my personal time. So when it comes to future-proofing, you know, making this jump, at least I have that in my favor. On the lens itself, it does have a autofocus manual focus switch. So, you know, if you want to switch into manual focus, all you have to do is hit that. You'll use this ring to manually focus, of course. It does have a lock switch here because naturally over time when you use your lens and zoom it in and out, eventually if you start walking with it like this, naturally mine hasn't gotten to that point yet, you'll find that it slowly starts to kind of come out of the barrel. So to avoid that from happening, you can go ahead and just hit this lock switch here, hit it down so you'll see the white, and it's not going to budge. So it's just a nice way to keep it from, you know, coming out when you're not shooting with it. There's also a shortcut button on this lens. You can actually program this while it's on the camera. You can make this so you can change the aperture, the ISO, different settings. It's absolutely customizable, so it's essentially a function button, so do keep that in mind. This does have a lot of weight to it. It's a lot of heft. As you can see, it's fairly large. Now, if I bring out the Tamron, you can see that in size comparison is going to be a little bit smaller. It's definitely not as wide in the glass, and it's actually much lighter. So if you're enjoying Sony, you're having a great time, maybe you're not like, I'm going to be doing photography forever and ever and I'm going to continue to upgrade, and maybe you're not seeing that far yet. If that's the case, the Tamron is like less than half the price than the Sony. The Tamron lens is pretty fantastic. Just showing some examples at the end of this video here. I'm just going to show some examples to music since I'm not really going over a camera walkthrough. I am using the Sony A7 II with these pictures, so do keep that in mind as well. But as you can see in the pictures, there isn't a huge difference. I did find that the Sony was a little bit sharper, while the Tamron was a tad bit softer if you really zoom in on the photo. But when it comes to focusing, they're the same. When it comes to their speed, when it comes to quality, I find that they're pretty darn close. I mean, you get that nice 2.8 aperture still, that great bokeh effect. Not to mention that Tamron has top-notch stabilization because naturally they invented it, so they're gonna make sure that they have the best for themselves. The Tamron lens is much more simpler than the Sony is. It doesn't have any buttons or switches. So if you want to manually focus it with the manual focusing ring, you're gonna wanna switch that on the camera itself. There's no shortcut buttons, there's no lock switch, nothing like that. It's just simple, it's small, travel friendly. If you have the chance to try these lenses out for yourself at a camera store near you or through Rent Lenses or whatever it may be, I always tell you guys to support your local camera stores because naturally, not only are brick and mortar stores going to get a lot of gear first, but they're going to prioritize customer service over the sales. So do keep that in mind when looking at cameras and lenses and whatnot. When it comes down to it, big differences are going to be weight, size, but also longevity, because it's going to last much longer when it comes to it being future-proof with firmware. Now, Tamron does try and keep up on that, but of course there is no guarantee. So lighter, smaller, but it is a little bit softer as well with this lens. So totally your call. For me, I am so happy with my Sony. If you look at the example pictures at the end of this video and you decide this is a, $2,200 difference, that's totally your call. If you guys want to see any other lens comparison videos, if you've really been debating about a specific lens versus a certain brand, if you want me to compare certain camera bodies, if you want me to do different tips and tricks videos, let me know in the comments below. Be happy to add them to my list. And as always, keep your eye out for inspiration, Shutterbugs. Bye.